Chapter 1466, a bit weak. Roar. A loud sound resembling thunder exploded around the hairy man Gu immortals at the same time. A huge dragon head charged towards them like a hill that a huge shadow was casted over the immortals. Before it even hit, the strong air currents blew out with threatening aura, making everyone lose their confidence in defending themselves. We're finished. 3 hairy man Gu immortals were covered in sweat. One of them was lying on the ground. Seeing that they were about to die, at this moment, the 3 hairy men heard a cold voice. Useless. The 3 hairy man Gu immortals were overjoyed. Even though they were insulted, they shouted, "We are here. Fairy Ningbing, save us." During the moment of danger, a white figure flew towards them. It was Dragon Lady by Ningbing. She snorted coldly and raised her hands. Crack. At the next moment, an ice wall emerged and shielded the 3 hairy man Gu immortals. In just a breath's time, the giant dragon head crashed into the ice wall. The ice wall could not take it and shattered. But Bai Ningbing had already pulled the 3 hairy man Gu immortals back as they retreated. At the same time, cold light shot out of her eyes and landed on the dragon head. The vicious dragon head was soon covered in a layer of white frost. Its speed had fallen drastically. Bai Ningbing internally let out a sigh of relief. After that instance of combat, she had already deduced that the dragon head was only rank 7 level. With her battle strength, she could easily deal with it. But immemorial desolate beast myriad head coiling dragon has 10,000 heads. I can deal with 1 head, but if the other dragon heads join in the battle, I will be outmatched. After all, 2 fists cannot rival 4 hands. Bai Ningbing looked at the sky as she frowned. This was not the ordinary Taichio world. It was a dark formation path space. The myriad head coiling dragon was a formation path immemorial desolate beast. It could create formation path spaces just like how the upper extreme heavenly eagle could enter and exit grotto heavens. It was the immemorial desolate beast's latent ability. I need to get out of this place and return to the outside world. I hope Wu Xie and the rest can hold on. At this moment, in the outside world of Taichio, He Lulan and the others were flying around in the sky, facing hundreds of dragons on the ground. They used their methods and unleashed an array of attacks endlessly. It was a grand scene. The green giant grass in Taichio were as tall as trees. They grew in large numbers, resembling a forest. Within the giant grass, hundreds of dragons had varying forms. They either had golden scales, horns on their foreheads, 3 dragon eyes, or sharp teeth. Their bodies were wavering, but their heads were high in the sky, much taller than the grass here. These were all dragon heads, part of the myriad head coiling dragon. The tails were deeply buried under the soil. All of the 10,000 dragons were of the same origin. Meanwhile, He Lulan flew in circles like an eagle. She continued to unleash killer moves that rained down like fireworks. Dragon roars resounded. They were not passively taking hits. They retaliated continuously. Most of them were breathing out dragon breaths. Some were spitting out poison, while some had dragon eyes shooting out light. Ignoring the dragon head that went to deal with by Ningbing, there are 3 rank 7 dragon heads. The rest are rank 6 level. We have not found any wild immortal Gu yet, but be careful. Don't get close. You will be dragged into the formation path space of the myriad head coiling dragon. He Lulan, Wu Xie, and the rest conversed while they fought at the same time. Lang Yalan Spirit asked Fang Yuan for help. He had to respond. Firstly, this rescue mission had a lot of rewards. It was quite enticing. Secondly, Fang Yuan was a supreme elder of Langya's sect. He could not ignore this. It would violate his alliance agreement. Thus, while rushing there, Fang Yuan ordered Wu Xie and the rest to help first and stall for time. As the battle got more intense, not much time had passed, but Wu Xie and the rest were already feeling great pressure. Oh no! More and more dragon heads are awakening. If this goes on, the immemorial dragon head will awaken. Not only will we fail to save them, we will lose our lives. When will sect leader arrive? We are deep within Taichio. The teleportation formation is far away. He needs some time. Be careful. While conversing, a rank 7 dragon head woke up and emerged from the ground, roaring as it shot out a silver dragon breath. He Lulan narrowly avoided it, as Wu Xie pondered and said to Lady White Rabbit and Shui Air, Stay back and help us out from a distance. Shui'er only had rank 6 cultivation level. Her mind was shaking and she was barely putting up a fight. Even though she was the genius of the snowmen, she could not be compared to He Lu Lan and the rest. She did not try to force herself. She retreated with Lady White Rabbit. Is it fine for us to retreat? Lady White Rabbit was very worried. Shui'er rolled her eyes at her. Let's listen to Fairy Wu Xia. With our battle strength, we will only hold them back. The immortals resisted for a while longer. More dragon heads were awakening and joining the combat. 1,000 dragon bodies were moving about. Dragon heads were roaring. He Lu Lan and the rest were fully suppressed. Thankfully, Myriad Head Coiling Dragon was a very special type of immemorial desolate beast. Once it was born, it could not move. Even though there were many dragon heads, they could only defend their territory. They could not pursue enemies. Even so, 1,000 dragon heads. Breaths were incredibly powerful. He Lu Lan and the rest retreated time and again. They could barely resist it. Oh no, the situation is getting worse. Bai Ningbing is still not out yet. I'm afraid she's unable to escape from the enemy's trap. He Lu Lan and the rest were right. Bai Ningbing was fighting desperately inside the formation path space. To defend those 3 hairy Mangu immortals, she was very restricted. But right at this time, an indescribable aura spread throughout the place. The huge dragon head that surpassed all others slowly rose up. The immemorial dragon head had awakened. Its eyes were hazy. Its eyelids were drooping. It had yet to awaken fully, but it already created immense pressure in the Gu immortals. Damn it. What should we do? The immortals were hesitating when Ing Wu Xia ordered. We will retreat. They were only rank 6 and 7. How could they resist rank 8? They could only retreat, giving up on Bai Ningbing and the 3 hairy Mangu immortals. But right at this moment, the immemorial dragon had opened its mouth and sucked in. Instantly, the world changed. Ing Wu Xia and the rest were all dragged into the formation path space without putting up resistance. Immemorial dragon head. Bai Ningbing was shaken. She turned to look at Ing Wu Xia and the rest, frowning and asking, "Where's Fang Yuan?" Ing Wu Xia and the rest smiled bitterly. Thankfully, the immemorial dragon had only trapped the Shadow Sect immortals and did not attack. The dragon head faded into the formation path space in a few breaths of time. That IT had rank 8 battle strength. From its perspective, rank 6 and 7 Gu immortals were insignificant. It did not need to fight. It let the other dragon heads handle this battle. Thus, 1,000 dragon heads appeared all around the Shadow Sect immortals. Ing Wu Xia and the rest fell into a difficult battle. The scene now was different from before. These dragon heads could move easily in the formation path space. They could appear and vanish at times. They were no longer trapped at their original spot. The immortals tried and could not break out of the formation path space. They could only unite and fight together. Resisting a desperate battle. In the dangerous battle, all of the immortals suffered injuries. The 3 hairy Mangu immortals, Shui'er and Lady White Rabbit, barely managed to survive. Gradually, the Shadow Sect immortals could no longer care about the weak point. 1 hairy Mangu immortal was the first to die. Shui'er gasped as she could not escape in time. She was surrounded by several dragon heads. To think that I will die here. Shui'er could not stop them. She could only shut her eyes and wait for death. But a dark figure flew in and dragged her out. What are you all doing? Why did I have to come out and salvage the situation? The pressure of survival made Lady White Rabbit turn into Black Tigress again. She was the one who saved Shui'er. Shui'er was dazed. You are Lady White Rabbit? I am not that weakling. Black Tigress smiled coldly. She looked at Shui'er in disdain. Shui'er was speechless. She finally understood. Fang Yuan's subordinates, the members of Shadow Sect, were all monsters. Compared to them, she was the weakest. With Black Tigress' help, the scene finally stabilized. But good times did not last. More and more dragon heads appeared. The immemorial desolate beast Myriad Head Coiling Dragon was finally starting to show its terrifying battle strength. The immortals could only defend themselves. They could not escape. Their hope was all in Fang Yuan. But when was Fang Yuan going to arrive? After such a long period of fighting, Fang Yuan should have arrived already. But soon, the Shadow Sect immortals realized that this formation path space had time path elements in it. The rate of time was very different from the outside world. This realization was like a huge rock that weighed on the Gu immortals' hearts. But gradually, Ingwu Xie and the rest found out that the number of dragon heads in the formation path space was shrinking. Their pressure was decreasing. They stabilized in this dangerous situation again. Fang Yuan must be here. After realizing this, the immortals rose in morale. But Shuai could not help but feel worried. I wonder what the battle outside is like. Even though Fang Yuan has rank 8 battle strength, can he resist this rank 8 myriad head coiling dragon? While thinking about this, the formation path space broke, and everyone returned to the outside world. Looking at the scenery, Shuai could not help but gasp in shock. The ground was covered in rivers of blood. Countless dragons were lying on the ground. The surrounding area was covered in corpses. That immemorial dragon head was growling in pain. It was no longer as imposing as before, and Fang Yuan was everywhere. Single thought, endless clones. Ingwu Xie muttered, recognizing Fang Yuan's immortal killer move. Fang Yuan was concealing himself among the countless silhouettes, but that immemorial dragon head had no way to figure out where Fang Yuan was. Ignited thought, flying rock. Countless flaming rocks were landing on myriad head coiling dragon's body, making a large number of dragon heads fall to the ground. They had thought of getting up, but the thought was extinguished instantly by the flames. Single thought, flower blossom. Fang Yuan shifted his thoughts. Countless beautiful flowers bloomed on the dragon bodies. They felt that their strength was sapped away as the strong dragon heads fell into weakness. The flowers were used as fuel to strengthen the flames in their mind. These attacks quickly defeated the rank 6 and 7 dragon heads. They sprawled on the ground like fat earthworms. Only the immemorial dragon head had a powerful aura, but as it could not find Fang Yuan's main body, its battle strength was useless. This is the power of wisdom path killer moves. I can see how powerful Purple Mountain True Monarch was from this. Fang Yuan sighed to himself internally at this moment. The immemorial dragon head saw Ingwu Xie and the rest. It changed target and assaulted them. The remaining 2 hairy man Gu immortals shrieked uncontrollably. Fang Yuan's main body emerged and blocked the dragon head's path. Be careful, Shuai shouted as she saw the immemorial dragon head crash into Fang Yuan's body with much fear. The huge force sent Fang Yuan flying, but he quickly flew back again. In contrast, the immemorial dragon head was covered in blood. It was in a pathetic state. Reverse flow protection seal rendered heavenly quartz Gu immortals without options. The power of it was not a joke. Using this chance, the Shadow Sect immortals managed to retreat to a safe distance. Without any lingering burden, Fang Yuan engaged in a fight with the immemorial dragon head. So strong. Shuai was completely dazed from watching. She watched how Fang Yuan gained the upper hand and killed the immemorial dragon head eventually. This immemorial desolate beast is a bit weak. When the battle ended, Fang Yuan looked down at the immemorial dragon head that was cut off, and the 1,000 dragon heads lingering on the ground as he sighed. Chapter 1467. The View of a Rank 8. We're saved. Lord Fang Yuan is invincible. The 2 hairy man Gu immortals saw Fang Yuan defeating the myriad head coiling dragon. They cheered loudly and expressed their joy of surviving the ordeal. But the Shadow Sect immortals were silent. Bai Ningbing snorted. Ingwu Xie had a look of nostalgia. After seeing these wisdom path killer moves again, he thought of the sacrificed Purple Mountain True Monarch. He Lulan was silent. The stronger Fang Yuan became, the smaller her chances of escaping. Shuai blinked in succession. She was mentally shaken. Looking at the ravaged battlefield, she understood why the tribe wanted to have a marriage connection with Fang Yuan. This is rank 8 battle strength. Ordinary immemorial desolate beasts cannot deal with Gu immortals that have rank 8 battle strength. Because humans possess intelligence and wisdom, we can use countless immortal killer moves. Being married to this man, even if we only rely on this connection, our tribe will no longer be bullied by the Rockmen. If we can use his help, the entire tribe will be lifted. We will definitely prosper. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan stared at the dragon corpse and the fallen dragon heads, collating his gains and losses. Immemorial desolate beasts had rank 8 battle strength, but they were still classified into different tiers. This myriad-head coiling dragon was one of the weaker ones among immemorial desolate beasts. It was not in good condition. It had just woken up from sleep and was countered by Fang Yuan's wisdom path killer moves. If Fang Yuan used other methods or fought by charging in, he might have had to spend more effort. But ignited thought flying rock had an incredible effect that dealt with it easily. How should I deal with this myriad-head coiling dragon? Without the immemorial dragon head, it is only ancient desolate level now. But it still has its foundation. In time, a new ancient dragon head will become immemorial level. This type of formation path, immemorial desolate beast, was very rare. Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture was in its development stage. He first thought of moving this myriad-head coiling dragon into his immortal aperture, but regretfully, once the myriad-head coiling dragon is in the ground, it could no longer be moved. It was not just deep underground. It was connected to the earth vein. It grew from extracting nutrients from the earth vein. Thus, if the surrounding soil was dug up, the myriad-head coiling dragon would lose its connection to the myriad-head coiling dragon. It would lose its life. Ordinary Gu immortals might be without options, but Fang Yuan had methods that be it Shadow Sects inheritances or Langya Sects inheritances. They had countless methods to relocate the myriad-head coiling dragon, but Fang Yuan gave up this alluring idea after considering it. The reason was simple. These methods needed immortal Gu that Fang Yuan did not have. Even if he used the light of wisdom, the time, effort, and resources needed were huge. It was not worth it for just this immemorial desolate beast, but to kill it and sell off its body parts was a huge waste. After all, an immemorial desolate beast that was alive had greater value than a dead one. Thoughts clashed in Fang Yuan's mind as he thought of the best way to resolve this. Langya sect. He had just prepared to contact Langya Land Spirit, when Langya Land Spirit already contacted him using information path mortal Gu. Langya Land Spirit was also very happy. Fang Yuan was able to defeat the immemorial desolate beast and save 2 hairy man Gu immortals. He wanted to thank Fang Yuan and had a warm tone. Fang Yuan smiled silently. The status of a rank 8 Gu immortal was totally different. In the absence of rank 9, rank 8s were the dominating overlords. Each rank 8 Gu immortal caused great influences in their every action. Even though Fang Yuan did not have rank 8 cultivation level, having only rank 8 battle strength and being considered a quasi-rank 8, he could already feel how amazing it was to be a rank 8 at this moment. Fang Yuan said to Langya Land Spirit, "This myriad-head coiling dragon is still alive. A new immemorial dragon head will regrow in the future. I want to sell this immemorial desolate beast to Langya sect. First Supreme Elder, how many sect contribution points can I get for this?" Langya Land Spirit was dazed before shouting, "Great idea." Langya sect was exploring Tai Chiu. They could use an immemorial desolate beast's corpse to create a teleportation immortal formation. This was a base point for them. Using this base, they could explore outwards and gain more resources from Tai Chiu. But in the huge Tai Chiu, just one base was not enough. Like this time, because of the distance, it was not easy to rescue them. This myriad head coiling dragon is a natural immortal formation. We do not need to do anything. As long as we subdue it, we will be able to create a second base. As for sect contribution points, Langya Land Spirit considered before giving Fang Yuan a number he was satisfied with. Fang Yuan had to refine a large number of immortal Gu earlier. His sect contribution points had dwindled. He needed to replenish them so that he could refine Gu again. Right now, Fang Yuan was handing out a Gu refinement mission. His main goal was heavenly secret immortal Gu. After settling his loot, Fang Yuan led the immortals back victoriously. The Shadow Sect immortals were all injured. He Lu Lan had the heaviest injuries. Even though the fire path methods were good, it was not compatible with her great strength true martial physique. Unfortunately, Fang Yuan needed to develop his strength path too. There was a conflict between them. Fang Yuan had to satisfy his own needs first before he could pass down excessive Gu worms to raise the Shadow Sect immortal strength. After all, Heavenly Court was too strong. Their strength was needed for Fang Yuan to gain a decisive victory in the future. However, I can modify her fire path killer moves to make them more compatible. I can even modify this strength path immortal killer moves for her to use. Fang Yuan thought, He Lulan was still very loyal due to Shadow Sect's alliance agreement. But in Fang Yuan's mind, Fairy Miao Yin and Lady White Rabbit were more trustworthy to at the same time. Fang Yuan had a way to restrict He Lulan. That was her father-come-enemy, He Chung. This huge trump card had always been in Fang Yuan's hands. He Lulan was kept in the dark. I can nurture He Lulan slightly. Modifying these killer moves is very easy. The expended time and effort is low. I can do it rapidly. Thus, for the next few days, Shadow Sect's immortals healed themselves while He Lulan's injuries slowly recovered. She was only mildly injured. Fang Yuan handed Star Eye's immortal goo to her and let her use it to refine the stars in the sky. Fang Yuan chose a huge star when he was in southern border disguised as Wu Yihai. There were too many people. He could not casually refine the stars. There was little development in this. It kept dragging on until now. Fang Yuan did not have the time or energy for this. He passed Star Eye's immortal goo to He Lulan and made her use her time to refine the star, allowing Star Eye's immortal goo to display its worth. When He Lulan succeeded, Fang Yuan would give her the modified immortal killer moves as the reward. Fang Yuan had created an organization in his previous life. To nurture a person, they could not be given rewards for no reason and at a rapid pace. Breaking the rules of advancement was a huge problem for organizations. Any act of promotion or demotion needed to have appropriate reasons. If there was no reason for it, then he should create a reason. Fang Yuan was very experienced in this. After the matter of the myriad-head coiling dragon, Fang Yuan realized that the Shadow Sect immortals also needed more battle strength. When they got stronger, they would be more helpful to Fang Yuan. However, the most important thing now was Fang Yuan's own development. The most reliable person was himself. A truly mature person would never rely on others in times of need. The Shadow Sect immortals were merely icing on the cake for Fang Yuan. After returning to his Cloud City, Fang Yuan took out a rank 6 strength path immortal material. Next, he used immortal killer move Eat Strength. A moment later, this pure strength path immortal material had melted. A small portion of the Tao marks in it had been transferred to Fang Yuan. Using perceivable Tao immortal goo to check it, his strength path Tao marks did not grow by much. Fang Yuan was not disappointed. This was an expected result. The main way for goo immortals to increase their Tao marks was through tribulations. For Fang Yuan, he had another immortal aperture annexing method. As for each strength killer move, it could only slowly accumulate. There would only be effect after a long time. Thus now, when dealing with the myriad-head coiling dragon, even though he gained some strength path Tao marks, his battle strength did not rise much. However, if I can refine Snack Immortal Goo into the rank 7 Big Snack, I can modify each strength so that the gain in my strength path Tao marks will be more evident and achieve a qualitative change. This thought appeared in Fang Yuan's mind before rapidly vanishing. Refining Snack Immortal Goo into Big Snack Immortal Goo was alluring, but it was not the appropriate time to do that now. Refining Heavenly Secret Immortal Goo was the main priority, and Fang Yuan was continuing his immortal aperture development to satisfy the needs of his immortal goo in terms of food. The latter expended almost all of his finances. How long had it been? His 10 million immortal essence stones had already started depleting, but his great efforts also gave him great rewards. He had already completed more than half of his basic development. My soul foundation has already reached 10 million man soul. Let's continue like this. In terms of killer moves, I am already familiar with Purple Mountain True Monarch's Wisdom Path killer moves. Next, I will modify Bo Qing's Sword Path killer moves. In terms of Wisdom Path, Fang Yuan had Grandmaster attainment level. He also had Wisdom Path Immortal Goo. It was naturally his priority in terms of Sword Path. Even though he had several Sword Path Immortal Goo, he lacked the attainment level for it. It was lower on his priority in terms of Soul Path. Not only did he lack attainment level, he also lacked Immortal Goo. He only had rank 7 Change Soul and rank 6 Cleanse Soul. It was even lower on the priority list. Fang Yuan had been preparing. Himself, he had considered his options thoroughly. At the same time as modifying Bo Qing's Sword Path killer moves, I will also modify some killer moves for He Lulan. The only problem is that after completing my basic development, my finances will be at a dangerous level. Fang Yuan was a little worried, but after 3 days, the Snowman tribe sent the third set of gifts to him. The third set of gifts was the most valuable one among the three. After getting this, Fang Yuan's basic immortal aperture development no longer had the problem of lacking funds for the time being. Chapter 1468. Ice Path Crystal Essence. Southern border. A mild rain was drizzling. There was serenity amidst the cold winds. It was dusk on the green mountain ridge. On a nameless mountain, a huge pine tree with a cone shape had already grown for 6 years on this location. Soon, in an hour, I will be able to refine rank 7 pine needle immortal goo. 6 years of hard work. Rank 7 secluded cultivator Zhengqing thought in his heart with anticipation. He was a wood path goo immortal. He was using a wood refinement method this time. Even though it took a long time, he was using the technique of Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable. The success rate was very high. Zhengqing was originally immortal. When he was finding firewood one day in the mountain, he fell off the cliff and landed on a huge lotus that was within the valley. Through a fortuitous encounter, Zhengqing inherited one of Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable's wood path inheritances. After working hard on cultivation, he became a goo immortal. He slowly cultivated and rarely went out. After hundreds of years, he became rank 7. He had a peaceful nature. One had to say, Genesis Lotus True Inheritance was really suited for him. When refining goo this time, he turned into a pine tree and stayed here for 6 years, through rain and shine, slowly cultivating while ignoring the changes in the environment. Rumble. At this time, from deep under the earth, he heard a loud sound, like the screaming of countless beasts. What is going on? Zhengqing heard the sound and became alert. No way, my goo refinement method comes from Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable. Be it the process of refining goo or the final moment, the process is natural and mystical. There is no way I will be exposed. Thus, this cannot be a case of enemies coming to snatch it. Wait. Zhengqing was first suspicious before his heart jumped. He thought of an answer. Months ago, he had also experienced such a situation. That time, there was a huge earthquake. It was as if there was a huge python rolling around in the ground. Even though he was unharmed, the event shocked Zhengqing deeply. After that, Zhengqing connected to Treasure Yellow Heaven and learned that there was an unprecedented earthquake that involved the entire southern border. Is this the same thing? Zhengqing's guess soon got confirmed. Like what he had expected, this was the same type of earthquake as before. But the size of it was far beyond Zhengqing's imagination. Rumble. A terrifying earthquake seemed to devour everything. The world was shaking like the apocalypse was here. Huge trenches were created that extended for millions of li. Zhengqing was very unfortunately. The nameless mountain that he was on was being devoured by a trench. The mountain collapsed. Zhengqing wanted to hold on, but he reached his limits. He had to return to human form. Even with his superb mental state, he still wanted to vomit blood. His 6 years of hard work had gone up in smoke. What is this earthquake? Why am I so unlucky? Sigh. Suddenly, his bloodshot eyes widened immensely. He saw that the immeasurably wide trench had a mountain-like rock. This rock was orange in color. It was also crystallized. The surface had countless holes that were large as houses, while some were small as fists. A large amount of yellow smoke was spewing out of these holes unceasingly. The smoke became thicker and soon turned into soil. The original orange-yellow crystal rock was covered in a thick layer of soil in a dozen breaths of time. Zhengqing breathed roughly. He had Genesis Lotus True Inheritance. He knew what this was with his knowledge. This is the Earth Path Crystal Essence. In Hu Land. This is a rank 8 immortal material. I'll wait. Zhengqing's investigative killer move looked further. His eyes became wider as he shouted. Did I see wrongly? Not just the Earth Path Crystal Essence. There are also jade scales, earth hole traveling flame, spring thunder condensed dewdrops. These immortal materials were very valuable. They were also of a huge quantity. The feeling of failing the goo refinement had already been forgotten by Zhengqing. He started to get busy collecting these precious resources. Northern Plains, Langya Blessed Land. Fang Yuan cultivated his sword path killer moves. Sword path killer move. Triple layered sword wave. Swish. Swish, swish. The dazzling silvery waves were crashing unceasingly. 3 layers of waves swept forward with unparalleled sharpness and power. Immortal killer move. Formless flying sword. Flying sword immortal goo shot out rapidly. It vanished in an instant due to the extreme speed. Fang Yuan could accurately sense the location of flying sword immortal Gu, but others could not. This was one of Bo Qing's signature killer moves. Immortal killer move, cloud flying sword. Fang Yuan clapped as a large amount of cloud fog appeared and rapidly expanded. The power of the sword had no form or limits. It could not be intercepted. Without any solid matter, it could not be resisted. Immortal killer move, 10,000 li flying sword. Fang Yuan pointed as sword light flew out like a rainbow, shooting towards the sky, traveling several thousand li in the blink of an eye. It was extremely accurate, and the final move, immortal killer move, 5-finger fist heart sword. Fang Yuan clapped and placed his palms in front of his chest together, before his right hand's fingers curled up, as if he was grasping endless sword light in his hand. Next, he raised his right hand up towards the top of his head. First, his thumb straightened. With a swoosh, an extremely sharp sword light flew out and pierced a hole in cloud cover continent. Next were his index and middle fingers. They extended and 2 sword lights shot out with terrifying night. But his last 2 fingers could not be stretched after 3 sword lights. Fang Yuan had to stop the killer move. After some practice, Fang Yuan stood on the spot, collating his experiences. These last days, I have already finished modifying the sword path killer moves. There are a total of 5 moves. Other than triple-layered sword wave originating from Langya's sect, the other 4 moves came from Bo Qing, and I have already modified them. Sword path situation is inferior to wisdom path. I do not have as many sword path immortal Gu compared to wisdom path, and my attainment level is far lower. My modification is limited. The power is about the same as Bo Qing's original version. Especially the final move, 5-finger fist heart sword. It used to be renowned throughout history. It was a move that shocked the world. But I can only use 3-finger sword lights. That is my limit. At the same time, the power of the move is only at the peak of rank 7. If I can use rank 8 wisdom sword immortal Gu as well, the sword path killer move will reach the power level of rank 8. Unfortunately, wisdom sword immortal Gu was very hard to use. He needed rank 8 immortal essence. Fang Yuan was not rank 8. He could not produce rank 8 immortal essence at all. Fang Yuan had 3 rank 8 immortal Gu. They were attitude Gu, years flow like water, and wisdom sword immortal Gu. Among them, attitude Gu was a legendary immortal Gu written in the Legends of Renzu. It had a very low requirement to use. Years flow like water was slightly worse, but its effect depended on the quality of the immortal essence used instead. Wisdom sword immortal Gu was a normal rank 8 immortal Gu. Even though it belonged to Fang Yuan, it needed rank 8 immortal essence to activate. Thus, Fang Yuan had a lot of room for improvement in sword path. But at the current moment, he had reached the limit of development in this path. After finishing the practice of his killer moves, Fang Yuan did not want to waste time. He returned to the Cloud City and started to work on his immortal aperture development again. Sovereign immortal aperture, at the extreme north of many northern plains. Snow was falling. The air was cold, snow was deep and thick. The atmosphere was entirely different from before. Howl. Howl. Occasionally, several snow monsters would pace around the snow and emit strange screams. And at the extreme north, there was a mountain-like crystal rock. This rock was blue in color. It had crystallized texture. The surface had countless holes of varying sizes. A large amount of cold and icy smoke was spewing out of these holes unceasingly. They were changing the environment to a great extent. Ice Path Crystal Essence. It was an extremely rare rank 8 immortal material that originated from the secluded domain of heaven and earth. It was rarely seen in the market. The first time he saw this Ice Path Crystal Essence, Fang Yuan sighed. To think that the Snowman tribe had such a valuable thing in their treasury. But Fang Yuan soon understood why. Even though they were living in difficulty now and were in a tough spot, the truth was, after so many generations of cruel competition, how could the remaining snowmen be simple characters? At least, among all of the snowman tribes, this was a high-quality batch. They were merely trapped here now. Even though their current situation was bad, they had their former glory. The Ice Path Crystal Essence was the important part of the third gift from the snowmen. They asked for why these snowmen suddenly showed such sincerity. Fang Yuan knew without needing to guess that it was because he defeated the immemorial desolate beast myriad head coiling dragon. The scene was recorded by Shui Air, who sent it back to the tribe. Of course, this was Fang Yuan purposely allowing her to do it. He wanted to see that happen. With this ice path crystal essence, I can create a production line of snow monsters. In time, this will be a new source of revenue for me. While he was thinking of the future, Sixth Hair transmitted to him. Sect leader, Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu's refinement has reached the crucial step. Please come over to refine the Gu personally. Fang Yuan was instantly alerted that if he could refine Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu, he would be able to learn about the following calamities and tribulations in advance. Any Gu cultivator would know how important and significant this was. Chapter 1469, 2 Week. The Gu refinement hall was filled with bright white light. The light was glaring. Nobody could look at it directly. An intense aura that was in between mortal Gu and immortal Gu showed that the Gu refinement was at its most crucial step. Fang Yuan was bathed in the white light. His concentration was fully invested. Beside him, refinement path Gu immortal Sixth Hair had a look of solemnness and nervousness. Now is the time. Suddenly, Sixth Hair spoke and dispelled the entire refinement path Gu formation. Originally, the best way to refine Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu was to use light path refinement method. Other than that, other paths would only exert more effort for a weaker result. Some even caused an opposing effect. And at this final step, the refinement path Gu formation needed to be shut down. The Gu Immortal had to personally complete this final step. This was the most unique part of Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu's refinement. Almost all other Immortal Gu had no such requirement. Only Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu could not be restricted by any rules. It had to be refined when it was in a state of freedom. Undeniably, this was a huge test to the Gu Immortal refining the Gu, because the Gu Immortal needed to take the place of the Immortal formation at that instant and complete the final step of the Gu refinement himself. But the Gu Immortal's control could not be excessive. Otherwise, it would be a form of restriction and Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu would not be refined. This step required a peculiar balance. The intricacy could not be expressed in words. Only the Gu Immortal undergoing the refinement could experience the final step. Fang Yuan's mind had countless thoughts. Using wisdom path methods, he perfectly took over the Immortal formation's workload. The surrounding white light was blinding, but Fang Yuan guided it back to a condensed form. Gradually, these lights formed into a circular shape around Fang Yuan. The huge circle had Fang Yuan at the center. Initially, there was only light, but after a few breaths of time, there was a material form. After a dozen breaths, the refinement hall's light had returned to normal. The ring had materialized and was the size of a house. It was white gold in color. The ring was quietly floating. Fang Yuan was at its center. Sixth Hair held his breath as he felt excited internally. Refinement path killer move. Heavenly light ring. It has finally formed. But we need it to rotate 7 times to refine the rank 7 Heavenly Secret Immortal Gu. The first rotation. Fang Yuan willed as the ring started to rotate slowly. This first rotation took 15 minutes to complete. The first rotation is complete. Sixth Hair let out a breath of turbid air. Second rotation. Fang Yuan's eyes, which were shut, slowly opened. Within his eyes, a profound light shot out towards the ring. The ring, which had stopped moving, started to move with his gaze. It rotated again. This rotation was faster than before. In just 7 minutes, it finished rotating. The second rotation is done too. Sixth Hair clenched his fists. Third rotation. Fang Yuan breathed roughly. He continued to regulate his breath. He was not breathing normally, of course. He was using a refinement path killer move. His breath and the ring resonated as it started to spin again. This rotation was even faster now. It finished in an instant. The third rotation is done. Sixth Hair's heart was pounding. The fourth rotation. Fang Yuan opened his mouth and started to hum. Under the effect of his voice, the ring started to spin violently. Soon, the fourth rotation was completed. We are already past half of the 7 rotations. But it will get even harder now, because the rings will rotate even faster. It will not be easy to control. Sixth Hair was oozing with sweat now. After the fourth rotation, Fang Yuan did not continue recklessly. He rested for a while before using his refinement path killer move to make the ring rotate. The fifth rotation. Fang Yuan's arms were naturally lowered. But at this moment, he slowly raised his arms to as if his arms were tied by two mountains. Fang Yuan slowly lifted them like he was carrying something very heavy. The ring started to rotate on its own, but this was different from before. While rotating, it also started to ascend. It became further and further away from the ground. When it reached Fang Yuan's shoulder, there was a sudden pause. Oh no. Sixth Hair's expression changed as the ring exploded on its own. Boom! A huge explosion was suppressed by the refinement hall before it caused any severe damages. But Fang Yuan, who was at the center, suffered the full extent of the explosion's force. Puff! Fang Yuan's expression was pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Heavily injured, immortal goo man as before. Fang Yuan immediately activated this immortal goo. His ever-useful method started to display its effect. Fang Yuan's heavy injuries became light injuries, but he had not completely healed. Fang Yuan was injured from refining rank 7 heavenly secret. Even though rank 6 man, as before, had some use, its time path effect could not completely get rid of his injuries. Fang Yuan's injuries this time were not simple. Heavenly secret immortal goo's refinement failed. This was not the first time. For the past several times, Sixth Hair failed in the middle of the refinement. This time, they reached the end. But Fang Yuan still failed despite doing it himself. Once. Fang Yuan and Sixth Hair had ugly expressions. Fang Yuan had practiced a lot for this. Before the goo refinement, he had used many luck path methods, but he still did not succeed. Gu refinement was like this. It was not easy to succeed. Even if one invested a lot into it, they might not gain anything. Their efforts might end up in vain. And most importantly, Fang Yuan's calamities and tribulations were impending. If he did not refine heavenly secret in time, Fang Yuan would not be able to do it before the tribulation. It is a pity. Sixth Hair sighed. No worry. Even without heavenly secret, I am confident of passing. Fang Yuan waved his hand. His mind had returned to normal in an instant. Several days later, Fang Yuan came to a desolate area using the teleportation immortal formation and started to undergo his tribulation. Placing his immortal aperture, he opened the immortal aperture door. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A vast amount of heaven and earth chi rushed in like a waterfall, replenishing sovereign immortal aperture. The scene was simply too grand. Ing Wu Xie and the rest were dazed. This time, in order to ensure that the tribulation went without a hitch, Fang Yuan brought the Shadow Sect immortals along. Bai Ning Bing was also here, while Shui'er was inside Langya Blessed Land. Shui'er was not trusted by Fang Yuan. As for the rest, they had entered the sovereign immortal aperture before. When Fang Yuan underwent tribulations, they could help him. When other Gu immortals were attracted here and tries to attack him, they could go out and block those enemies for him. This was the human calamity. When Fang Yuan underwent tribulations, he would be noticed by Heaven's will. There was no helping it that Heavens will tried all means possible to exterminate Fang Yuan. It would naturally plot, and after some time, his human calamity would appear. Unless we see it ourselves, it is absolutely hard to imagine that a person's immortal aperture could absorb this much heaven and earth chi at once. Sovereign immortal aperture. It is too powerful. I believe that even rank 9 venerables would not create such a scene when absorbing heaven and earth chi. The Shadow Sect immortals conversed and praised. Bai Ning Bing snorted. Her gaze was flickering uncertainly. She was shocked in her mind, but she said, "You are underestimating the rank 9 venerables. Even though I have never seen a rank 9 immortal aperture absorb heaven and earth chi, after obtaining Bai Xiang's true inheritance, I learned that Bai Xiang's absorption of the heaven and earth chi when he placed his immortal aperture was far bigger in commotion." Ing Wuxia looked at Bai Ningbing plainly. Bai Xiang was rank 8. He had a rank 8 grotto heaven. Fang Yuan is only rank 7 now. He only possesses a rank 7 blessed land. The two cannot be compared. Furthermore, the sovereign immortal aperture is too huge. There are many places that have not been developed. Its potential is unimaginable. In contrast, Bai Xiang grotto heaven was already filled up back then. The resources were occupying the entire immortal aperture. These resources naturally expended a lot of heaven and earth chi. Bai Ningbing was silent. Wu Xie is right. Fairy Miao Yin laughed curtly. The other Gu immortals nodded in agreement. After a long time, The sovereign immortal aperture completed the absorption of heaven and earth chi. The tribulation began to form in mini-red heaven. Fang Yuan's current body was inside mini-red heaven. This tribulation was targeting Fang Yuan. It would not show up elsewhere as for why he chose mini-red heaven. It was because this place was empty. It was once the place where he fought the immemorial year monkey. There were no resources here. His losses were minimized when fighting here. If they were in mini-northern plains or mini-southern border, the tribulation would destroy countless resources. That was not favorable to Fang Yuan. The sovereign immortal aperture is too huge. If we were the ones undergoing tribulation, how could we avoid destroying resources? But inside the sovereign immortal aperture, the tribulation cannot even cover the whole of mini-red heaven. Hey Lulan sigh with a tone of admiration. My shadow sect accumulated resources for 100,000 years before refining sovereign immortal fetus goo. Of course, it is extraordinary. Ing Wu Xie snorted coldly, saying proudly, a pity it all went to Fang Yuan. Bai Ning Bing said casually, making Ing Wu Xie stare at her in anger. What? Did I say something wrong? Bai Ning Bing was fearless. She looked at Ing Wu Xie provocatively, defending her face. Ing Wu Xie breathed in deeply. He turned his head over. So what if sovereign immortal fetus goo was used by Lord Fang Yuan? He is the leader of Shadow Sect. He is on the same boat as us. Ha ha ha. Bai Ning Bing laughed in a mocking tone. Ing Wu Xie ignored her and stared at the newly formed tribulation, only to see that around Fang Yuan, there was a dense poisonous fog. The poisonous fog was rumbling and had 5 distinguishable colors. This is a poison path tribulation. Lady White Rabbit said meekly. Or rather, the 5 poison tribulation. Ing Wu Xie said. He had more depth of knowledge. Like what he had just said, the 5-colored poisonous fog formed into 5 giant monsters, a snake, scorpion, spider, toad, and centipede respectively. The 5 monsters encircled Fang Yuan in a threatening manner, but did not attack yet. They were gathering strength. As time passed, their bodies got larger. Why is Fang Yuan not attacking yet? Bai Ning Bing frowned. Now was the best time to strike. As time passed, the poisonous beasts would get stronger. But Fang Yuan's tactic was different from normal people's mentality. He waited until the 5 poisonous beasts reached their maximum strength. All 5 pounced towards Fang Yuan with bodies like mountains. Bai Ning Bing and the rest held their breaths. The tribulation was so powerful that they were stunned even as just spectators. This was not an ordinary rank 7 tribulation. It was enhanced by heaven's will. It had the maximum power allowed by this world. Just this. Fang Yuan's eyes rolled as he vanished on the spot. Boom, boom, boom. At the next moment, thunderous sounds erupted continuously. Bai Ning Bing and the rest watched with pin-sized pupils as Fang Yuan rampaged on the battlefield. The 5 poisonous beasts were completely suppressed by his countless attacks. A while later, the poisonous fog faded. Only Fang Yuan was left standing in the battlefield like a demonic god. He looked around the battlefield and stared at his own hands, muttering, Rank 7. Heavenly tribulation is too weak. Chapter 1470. Intention to trade. Even though heavens will wants to get rid of me, the otherworldly demon, and raise the strength of the heavenly tribulation to its limit, it could do nothing against me. This tribulation was not hard for Fang Yuan, that he had prepared amply for this tribulation and had a lot of trump cards left unused. Ing Wu Xie and the rest were watching Fang Yuan's solo show and ended up being useless. They were in shock and amazement towards the sovereign immortal aperture. Rank 7 Gu immortals had to go through 24 earthly calamities, 3 heavenly tribulations, and 3 grand tribulations. Fang Yuan patiently waited for the 5 poisonous beasts to reach their peak. Before dealing with them, he wanted to probe the limit of the heavenly tribulation's power. A rank 7 heavenly tribulation no longer had any threat towards him. Earthly calamities were even weaker. Only grand tribulations were an uncertainty as for how strong grand tribulations could become. Fang Yuan did not know. He had not gone through it once. His rank 7 cultivation level was obtained by annexing apertures. He seized their cultivation level. This was the first time he was going through a rank 7 heavenly tribulation. Afterwards, Fang Yuan used perceivable Tao immortal goo to deduce that he obtained 1,000 poison path Tao marks from this heavenly tribulation. From now on, whenever Fang Yuan used poison path immortal goo, he would gain 100% amplification. Heavenly tribulations on average gave about 750 Tao marks. Fang Yuan obtained 1,000. It was because Heaven's Will had raised its power to the limit. But these gains were not what he needed now. Firstly, he did not have poison path resources to nurture. His poison path attainment level was very low. He only had one poison path immortal goo, woman's heart. Evidently, Heaven's Will had purposely chosen poison path to slow down Fang Yuan's growth. The next time I undergo heavenly tribulation, Heaven's Will might reduce the power of the heavenly tribulation to its limit. Fang Yuan could guess this without thinking. This heavenly tribulation made Heaven's Will realize that it could do nothing to Fang Yuan. It would no longer raise its power to the limit. After all, that would only give him more Tao marks. Other than making him stronger, there was no point in doing it. This means that my Tao mark gains will be very low when I pass tribulations in the future. Annexing apertures is the proper way to advance now. Fang Yuan understood. Annexing apertures was the advantage of the sovereign immortal aperture. It would be definitely used in the future. But now that he lacked the upper extreme heavenly eagle, and due to Fang Yuan cultivating in seclusion, he had no opportunities for that. The river of time flowed endlessly. Time passed rapidly. A month had gone by. During this period, Fang Yuan went through an earthly calamity. As he expected, the gain in Tao marks was very few. But in other aspects, Fang Yuan's improvements were huge. His gains were enormous, in terms of soul path. His soul foundation reached 50 million man's soul. His soul was so condensed that it was already showing signs of turning solid. And most importantly, his immortal killer move Ghost official garment was getting thicker. It was shielding Fang Yuan with even greater strength now. Over on He Lu Land's end, she had already refined the star. Fang Yuan tried to use Star Eye's immortal goo. The investigative effect was great. With this immortal goo, his investigative aspect was greatly supplemented in terms of immortal aperture management. The basic development was already completed. He expended almost all of his immortal essence stone storage and the 3 gifts from the snowman. In the end, he even borrowed some resources from Langya's sect to complete his foundations. But now, even though Fang Yuan had not fed them yet, the foundation was already set. It was like having dishes on the table even before eating, while the rice was still cooking in the pot. As long as he continued to develop, he would gain success in the future. There were 7 levels of immortal aperture development. The first level was to create mortal resource points. The second level was to have immortal material resources to feed immortal goo. The third level was to raise and produce immortal beasts and plants, completing the ecosystem. The fourth level was to produce resources for external trade and profits. Fang Yuan had crossed into the 4th level earlier, but he still had 1 foot in the 2nd level. Now that the 2nd level was done, Fang Yuan's other foot stepped into the 3rd level. The 3rd level was to raise and produce immortal beasts and plants, completing the ecosystem. This level's criteria was, these immortal beasts and plants had to perfectly assimilate into the immortal aperture's ecosystem. They had to form a food chain with the living beings within. Fang Yuan had done this in the past, but now it was lacking, because his 2 biggest groups of beasts, the eagle group and the year beast group, did not perfectly assimilate into the immortal aperture. The eagles needed to hunt for food on their own. But currently, Fang Yuan was purchasing the food from Langya's sect and treasure Yellow Heaven. Year beasts consumed year goo as food. Fang Yuan produced it himself. Rank 8 immortal goo years flow like water played a huge part in this. Without it, Fang Yuan could not raise such a huge population of year beasts. The 3rd level's development needs to wait. Fang Yuan wanted to continue, but he had to stock. He did not have enough funds now. To develop his immortal aperture, he needed to work on the 4th level and increase his trading capabilities. Right now, Fang Yuan had 9 sources of revenue. The first was Guts Goo. It was a monopoly with huge potential, but he had to invest a lot into it and split the revenue with Langya's sect. Right now, Fang Yuan's Guts Goo were all used to cultivate his soul path. His profits were 0 at the moment. Next was Year Goo. Fang Yuan has not taken over the market for Year Goo yet, and because of his actions earlier, The revenue of year gu would be horrible for the next couple of years. But undeniably, the market for year gu was huge in potential because Fang Yuan possessed rank 8 immortal gu years flow like water. This immortal gu was created by the Northern Plains Time Path great expert Feng. It was a top-tier immortal gu among rank 8s. Not only was it easy to use, owning it meant that one had a steady supply of year gu at a low cost. But it had weaknesses too. It would attract immemorial year beasts to wreak havoc in the immortal aperture. After Feng created years flow like water immortal gu, he tried to solve the problem. But unfortunately, due to his limitations as a time path great expert, he was not as skilled in other aspects. He was also lacking in fortuitous encounters. If he had the 180 slaves killer move like Fang Yuan, he would have solved the problem. And thirdly, his lifespan was limited. He had already started solving the problem using the immemorial year beast fishing formation as the flood discharge formation. But his lifespan was used up before they could be used. Thus, years flow like water immortal gu could not shine in its creator's hands. When it went into Fang Yuan's hands, its amazing effect was finally used. Fang Yuan also sighed when he thought of this. This was truly the twists and turns of life. After year gu were the dragonfish and regretful spider resource points. They were in the sovereign immortal aperture's dragon scale sea area and coiling thread cave. Back then, in southern border, Fang Yuan had thought of using Wu clan's strength to develop them. It was a huge effort. But now, the dragonfish business was heavily affected. Because the secret of Fang Yuan disguising as Wu Yihai was exposed, and his dragonfish business was done through Wu clan's network, his main targets were the righteous path forces of southern border. This business was naturally stopped after he got exposed. Thus, regretful spiders became Fang Yuan's biggest source of revenue now. The main buyers were Western Desert Shao clan. Their relationship was getting firmer. After the dragonfish and regretful spider were eerie fire dragon python, a series of star path resources, star dart gu, star fragment grass and more, spirit snakes, snow monsters, and light shine fungi. The eerie fire dragon python business had started when Fang Yuan obtained some in Imperial Court blessed land. Afterwards, he used He tribe's unique raising method to develop them to this scale. The production was not big nor small. It was inferior to the dragonfish and regretful spiders. His star path resources were inherited from Star Lord Wan Xiang. He did not focus on them at all. The reason was simple. They were getting less important because most of his resources were larger in scale. And this was obtained from a rank 6 gu immortal. Its initial scale was not big either. The spirit snakes were about the same as the star path resources. They came from Han Dong blessed land which was annexed by Fang Yuan. He did not develop it purposely. Finally, the snow monsters and lightshine fungus were future projects. The former used the ice path crystal essence to modify mini northern plains environment, while the latter had great importance now and could not be sold. In conclusion, Fang Yuan's business situation was not promising. Guts Gu had no profits. Dragonfish was heavily affected and earning little. Even though regretful spiders were the same as before, it could not hold up his situation alone. The remaining eerie fire dragon pythons, star path resources, and spirit snakes were important to rank 6 gu immortals, but for Fang Yuan, they were too small in scale. These three and the regretful spider business barely managed to help Fang Yuan maintain his finances. And finally, for the snow monsters and lightshine fungi businesses, the former still needed more investment, while the latter needed to expand in size first. The profits from year gu earlier had been depleted. In this situation, Fang Yuan needed to promote his other businesses urgently. He had a lot of resources. Even though he completed the basic development, the immortal aperture's development only went from 3% to 4%. But be it the immortal aperture's development, modifying of killer moves, or soul path cultivation, he needed to invest even more resources into them. To improve further or increase his earnings, he needed to put in capital. The more he put in, the faster his growth. And for Fang Yuan, he had a vast number of inheritances. He had countless ways to farm resources. He even had many unique techniques. There were too many choices. And among them, which was the most suitable and helpful choice? Fang Yuan fell into deep contemplation.